So I had the chance to watch Ocean's 8 a week ago, and here are some of my thoughts for the movie. And yes, I will be mentioning some spoilers in the movie, so yeah, here he goes.
Wait.
Now, the Ocean series has always been about glamorous criminals, people that could smooth talk their way through anything and make it seem like it's so easy, without having to use a gun or resort to violence or anything of that nature. Unlike movies like Heat, where it's a bunch of macho men going there, guns blazing, pow 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 pow, and shooting the place up. Unlike those movies, the Ocean series is a lot more civilized. Ocean's 8 is no different. The only thing now is, instead of guys with the Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, Ocean's 13, now you have a crew of ladies.
Hello ladies. Hello ladies, pleasure.
Now make no mistake, the movie looked very cool. It has a very stylized editing that goes with the soundtrack of the movie. So the soundtrack makes it sound, you know, oh wow, this is, I can get into the groove of things.
That's what it's all about right there.
And I can really root for these people, and you know what they're doing. Sure, they may be breaking the law, but it's so cool. But that is really where the entertainment sort of stops for me.
Time out, sir. Time.
The movie to me is just one giant B-roll with a few conversations spliced in between. At least that is how it felt to me. Because really, when I watch the Ocean series, I am watching it for the acts of crime. And there's not much talking involved when they're stealing something.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
But this movie, more so than the other ones before it, there really isn't a lot of development and chemistry between the characters. But I have to say, this is not on the part of the actresses. I feel as if the script just isn't substantial enough for them to have any sort of meaningful conversation or, you know, any deep character development.
What? You don't say. You don't say.
Ocean's 8 is written and directed by Gary Ross, who directed the Hunger Games series. And you can sort of tell that he's really losing control of everything, and at a certain point he just sort of just, you know, throws things on the screen and say, there, take it for what it is. When we look back at the Hunger Games series, there wasn't a lot to go in the movie. I mean, they watered down the original story so much that it sort of lost its original intent. And again, with Ocean's 8, the characters are just, you know, carrying one-line dialogues and moving the scenes along until we get to how are they planning the next move, what is coming their way. But those are all done through B-reel. And the interactions between the characters are very flat.
That's just lazy writing.
And that is why I find myself not enjoying this movie as much as, say, Ocean's 11 or Ocean's 13. Again, let me stress this point. This is not because we're now with a all-female cast. You have comments online that says critics don't like this movie because they're sexist and they just can't find enjoyment out of watching a group of female actresses carrying the movie. This has nothing to do with that. Really, this is just the characters not being given enough to hold the movie up. They do the best they can, but at the end of the day, a movie requires more than just good actresses. The movie requires good scripts and a good director to make sure that everything goes along with a unified vision. And in this case, it really doesn't. Like I said, it's just a whole series of B-reel.
Heart.
I'm sorry?
You gotta have heart.
And ultimately, again, that is why I think the movie failed. There's just not enough substance in the script for it to have any connection with the audience. And it sort of makes me wonder, why do they push this movie out now? If you think about it, the Ocean series has been on hiatus for quite a while now. There's no reason for them to rush back in. And especially because they are revamping the whole image and launching an all-female crew, they could have taken the time and actually develop the stories enough to the point where it is a much more enjoyable experience. I just feel that with the way Hollywood operates, they want to cash in on something. And I feel that's the problem with mainstream media trying to catch up to what is trending. And because of the sheer size, there's always going to be a time delay between what is trending with the audiences and what they can push into the cinema. That delay sometimes causes them to, I guess, rush the projects along too far. And I think this is a perfect case here.
They went too far.
We went too far. He said we went too far, man. Why did we go too far?
I think it's a little sad because they really have something that could potentially develop into a huge series and into a huge franchise again that replaces the original Ocean series. If you look at the box office performances of Oceans 11, 12, and 13, each of them grossed over $110 million just domestically, and we're not even talking about worldwide. Together, they're over $1 billion. Cha-ching. So I can see why the studio wants to have another go at this property, but in their expedited process, they sort of missed the ball on what could be really original. It's a brand new cast. It's an all-female cast. This is really the opportunity to play to the strengths of these new characters, so you don't fall back into the same routine of the mastermind with his friend.
The pinky and the brain,
Putting a team together who more or less play the same roles as whom they replaced in the original Ocean series. That just makes it unoriginal and mundane and boring. Overall, the movie is entertaining, but I don't think it has the legs that the other Oceans movie has, and it really is quite a shame that this opportunity they have is missed. I keep saying that, but that's the way it is. Then again, compared to the other movie industries around the world, Hollywood produces relatively less films, like compared to say Bollywood. I can see that they just want to play it safe and go with the tried and tested routines, but I don't want the routines anymore. I want something fun and interesting. I want them to surprise me. That's the problem with movies these days. It's so hard to be genuinely surprised unless you watch an independent movie, which you can already see is the way that things are going.
Well, that's great. That's just fucking great, man. Now what the fuck are we supposed to do? We're some real pretty shit now, man!
The movies that are actually doing very well and getting the audiences to have a genuine response, a genuinely positive response, are the small independent movies like the Whitehouse movies with a relatively little budget, like $5 million, $10 million maximum. And those movies, they really push the envelope and develop stories and interesting characters and have a connection with audiences in a way that these AAA titles have sort of missed the mark on more and more often now. It really is sort of a sad day for movie lovers. I would love to see that as Hollywood moves away from the summer blockbuster, the December Oscar season, and the February BS period, and they just space out the good movies evenly throughout the year. That should give them more incentive to produce movies that are actually connecting with the audiences and that are genuinely good instead of good because people perceive more money, higher budget as a good movie. And who knows, maybe the independent movies will become so popular that they take over. Because you know what the independent movies have that these AAA budget movies don't have? The independent movies can be bought up by Netflix, Amazon, these streaming services, and with the big TVs we have at home, with the surround sound audio, with all these equipment that we have, there is less and less of a reason now for people to go to the movies, thus contributing to Hollywood wanting to play it safe, I guess. It really is a vicious cycle, and I'm hoping that at some point we can break out of it and again have a very good movie-going experience again.
Good luck.
On a side note, here's a little history of the movie formula that we are so familiar with these days. With Ocean's 8, Ocean's 11, The Avengers, all these movies where you form a team and then go and solve a conflict. This formula was introduced way back when. Let me double check on that. Whenever you see a movie that starts with a protagonist who then goes out and assembles a team and then goes on a quest or something along those lines and solves the conflict, this formula was created way back in 1954 by Akira Kurosawa when he shot Samurai 7. It is not just one of the most brilliant movies in Japanese cinema history, it is one of the most brilliant movies ever made anywhere in the world, period.
Period. Both in person and around the globe.
And this movie, it created the whole formula of getting a team together and going out and do cool stuff. The problem is that this formula has been recycled and reused so many times now. Studios tend to fall into the trap of just simply doing the same things over and over and over again. So you see in Ocean's 8, you have a pickpocket who tries to steal something from the team leader the first time they meet, and the same thing was done before in Ocean's 11 when Matt Damon tries to steal something from George Clooney. And again, it's this whole cycle that repeats itself over and over again to the point where there's no originality in there anymore. And it really makes me want to go back and watch Samurai 7 again just to see how they did it the very first time and how that set the tone for all these movies that came after it. Maybe that's something I'll do this weekend. Anyway, at the end of the day, it is not like my one single voice is going to be able to steer these massive, gigantic Hollywood studios in one direction as opposed to the other.
Help me help you.
Still, it feels good to just get it off my chest. Anyway, if you're interested in the movie, go check it out. Don't pay full price for it. I don't think it's worth your money. Otherwise, wait for it to come out on streaming services and check it out. It's a good movie if you're just watching for the B-reel, and to me, that's where the most entertainment of the movie is. Anyway, the new Jurassic World movie comes out this weekend, so even though I say that I'm bored with these repetitive movies and the same formulaic approach, I'm still gonna catch it, I guess, because I want it to be good. I want it to be entertaining, and I want it to just wow me again with genuine movie-going fun. But regardless, here's to hoping you have a good week, and with that, signing off. Pow, 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 pow.